At the moment, one of our priorities is to maintain the strategic balance across the Taiwan Strait. And this will involve the Taiwan military receiving adequate support from the U.S. to defend ourselves. While peace and development appear to be the common language across the strait at the moment, we understand that peace must be backed by a commitment to security. Despite the conciliatory attitude of our current government towards China, the military build-up across the strait has not ceased. Instead, recent developments of the PLA in advanced weapon systems and naval capabilities have tipped the balance in China's favor. And Taiwan's ability to deter and to defend against the use of force will no longer be credible unless we demonstrate our commitment to investing in Taiwan's self-defense and acquire the necessary defense equipment. We will welcome a decision by the U.S. to provide Taiwan with advanced defense systems that are deemed necessary through a process of mutual consultation between our militaries and defense experts. The DPP, and in particular our legislative caucus, has expressed disappointment at the Ma administration's lack of dedication to a strong defense in the apparent declining budget proposals just submitted. When we come back to government, the situation must be rectified by a stronger demonstrated commitment. But we understand it is not only a matter of budgeting and acquisition of highly publicized items like the F-16s. Our general preparedness and the intensity of the day-to-day operational interaction between our militaries and defense experts are also crucial. In addition, we must also re-examine the value of our conscription service, seeks the right balance between a professional voluntary force and conscripted servicemen, and put in place policy incentives for the development of a domestic industry that is capable of developing and supplying our military with some of the systems needed. Another important priority in our strategic relationship with the United States is to ensure regional peace and stability. And this involves expanded cooperation and coordination with regard to with regional countries, especially the U.S. and its allies. Taiwan is willing and able to play a constructive role in dealing with transnational security issues, such as humanitarian relief, non-proliferation, counterterrorism, and cybersecurity. Already, intelligence cooperation led to the intervention in the ship of sensitive materials to North Korea a few years ago. And Taiwan has cooperated in controlling the export of dual-use technology products to Iran. On the matter of disputes in the South China Sea, to which Taiwan also has our stakes and claims, the DPP has a position that supports the freedom of navigation and the settlement of disputes through a multilateral framework and international law. We emphasize aspects of maritime cooperation and sustainable development in our policy. We are willing to engage in dialogue to ensure international cooperation on this matter. For Taiwan to be a more constructive stakeholder in the region, we require more proactive U.S. support to help facilitate Taiwan's participation in regional security dialogue and exchanges. By the example cited just now, we believe this is within U.S. interests as it is ours. And we hope our American friends also understand that support is not a one-way scenario. It has been mutual. While we expect support from the U.S. in accordance with U.S. global influence and capabilities, we have been ready to reciprocate and be a responsible stakeholder. As we commemorate 10 years after the 9/11, tragedy. We want to remind you that it was during our DPP administration that Taiwan stepped forward as one of the largest foreign donors to the post-Afghanistan war on terror reconstruction effort. We understand we stood ready without hesitation to provide logistic support to U.S. efforts in Iraq, and our government also contributed significantly to the Pentagon Memorial. When I was the Deputy Premier, I was personally involved in coordinating efforts with American friends to enhance our export control regulations to curtail the flow of sensitive materials to dangerous areas. For decades, U.S. support for Taiwan has been critical for the peaceful environment that has enabled prosperity and development. The people of Taiwan and the DPP cherish this relationship and will continue to play our part in nurturing the strategic partnership. From the U.S., we hope that our friends will recognize the anxieties that Taiwanese people feel about regional balance and marginalization. And while preoccupied with other interests around the world, we expect the U.S. to keep Taiwan on the agenda. As a reliable, committed partner relationship requires reinforcement. Now, China policy. Now, let me turn to China, which is always a subject of interest in our dialogue with the United States. Some of our policy challenges regarding China overlap with those facing the United States. And we have a common interest in dealing with these challenges in a coordinated manner. For example, we both face the issue of a more aggressive Chinese military in the region, with core interest claims that threaten the freedom of navigation and regional stability. However, our relationship with China are fundamentally different in nature, and some of our policy responses may not be entirely the same. That is why it is absolutely important that we constantly communicate our objectives and our strategies to ensure a norm of predictability and consistency in our relationship that serves as a foundation for confidence when we deal with China. For Taiwan, China is the most complex policy challenge that is manifested in economic, social, and political and security realms. Since interaction across the strait began in the late 80s, systemic changes on a global level, as well as profound interaction between the people on two sides on a micro level, have complicated the relationship to the extent that stated ideology and political positions are not sufficient to handle the complexity of the challenge. So while we must be clear about our strategy or strategic goals and approach, we must also allow adequate flexibility for more sophisticated management of the relationship. In the DPP's 10-year policy platform that I mentioned in the beginning, there are two chapters that lay out the guidelines for dealing with China. A chapter on national security strategy and one on economic relations with China. I have on many occasions, including on the opening of the DPP's think tank, in press interviews, meetings with international visitors, and speeches presented my thoughts on this subject matter. In case there is any doubt, let me again share with you our strategic goals, approach, and policy towards China. The overarching goal of managing relations with China is to maintain a peaceful and stable environment so that the Taiwanese people can have the opportunities to develop a prosperous economy while preserving the heartwarming political freedoms and way of living. Ultimately, we want to ensure that the right to determine Taiwan's future rests in the hands of the people of Taiwan. And any change of the status quo must be agreed by the people of Taiwan through democratic means. At the moment, most Taiwanese seem to accept the status quo, where Taiwan is by all practical definition already an independent country. Although people are frustrated by international discrimination, the desire to maintain political separation from China is commonly apparent. At the same time, China's growing economic significance and relevance for Taiwan is also a reality. And the Taiwanese people desire stability where business interests can be pursued in a predictable and fair environment, and where the government will help them shoulder and manage the potential risks involved. This will most likely be the mainstream sentiment in Taiwan for at least the next decade. Anyone who governs Taiwan must have an accurate understanding of the practical realities as well as the wishes of the Taiwanese people. And major policy must be formulated through democratic procedures. I have raised the concept of a Taiwan consensus, which highlights the democratic process of decision-making and emphasizes that the fact that policy is only sustainable when it is a realistic response to the consensus and needs of the people. Any political precondition that is not democratically agreed upon is fragile at most and will not withstand the test of time. To achieve our goal of maintaining a peaceful and stable environment across the Taiwan Strait, the DPP's approach towards China will be stable and balanced. As a responsible political party, our policy must be in line with the mainstream consensus in our society, as well as international expectations. And therefore, we will refrain from extreme or radical approaches. The current stalemate across the strait is a product of the evolution of history, but the future of the relationship does not have to be a zero-sum situation, and we are willing to take a strategic approach that benefits the people of both sides.